like you guys knowing Tome, you guys kind of know, like getting to know me, and put yourself in the shoes of like a prospective runner for Legend of Dragoon. And you go to that forum, and you go to that thread for Legend of Dragoon, and you read through all of that crap. Could you honestly say that you would be excited to run this game if that's the kind of help and support you're going to get from the community? You wouldn't. You wouldn't want to do it. You'd be like, F that, I'm going to go run Mega Man X or X2 or some Mega Man game. Because all those runners are pretty cool, and they're all helpful, and they're all like, if you have questions, they'll help you. Whereas you read through that thread, and it's like, holy crap, if I find something that I think is cool, or I think is better, and I try to post it here, I'm just going to get, like, I'm just going to get reamed a new one by these people. And granted, there's the mod there, saying, hey, people, you need to tone it down, you need to get back on topic, you need to actually, like, post things that actually are helpful. But you can't tell me that doesn't put a blemish on the game. And the fact that, like, Railcoon does not have 100% proof that he did not use a turbo or any sort of assistance with his run brings doubt, because this game in itself, 100%, because of the constant mashing you need to do in this game, there will always be doubt unless you have this bad boy right here. If you don't have this, people are going to question and refute your time and your ability to match. That's just how it is. Because you're basically mashing off and on, actually a ton, for about 12 hours. I mean, my arm's kind of tired by now, but I'm also a pretty physically fit guy too. So it comes with the game, right? You don't need a hand cam. You don't need a hand cam for like Final Fantasy VIII or Final Fantasy VII or IX. The majority of RPGs and the majority of games in general, you don't need a hand cam for it. Runners put a hand cam just because of all the technicality that they have to do with their hands, so the viewers get to see, like, holy crap, this person is mashing super fast and, like, their APM is super, super high on that controller. It's more for, like, a viewer's, like, pleasure instead of, like, a proof thing. You know what I mean? You see that with Legend of Zelda runners. Basically, they'll have, like, a hand cam just so they can see, like, what they're doing on their controller. Not because not because the community demands proof, but because it's more of like a fan favorite kind of thing. But this game, however, is completely different. You have to have a hand cam going the entire time, and like constantly show that this is not a turbo controller. Like throughout my entire run, you can see that I am using a DualShock 1. You can watch me physically match on this controller. There may be times where I'm moving around or whatever, but regardless, you will see that this is the same controller that I used the entire time. So, I don't know. I really enjoy this game, and I wish there wasn't such a negative stigma around this game, but unfortunately there's no one else to blame but the people who really started that thread. Honestly. I mean, there's innocent people in that thread, but to be perfectly honest, I mean, it's the robot in Railcoon who really, really shot this game right in the foot, I believe. It's a speedrunning community. They raise a ton of money for charity. They do a lot of great things. It's super fun, even as a casual speedrunner, to just like be a part of the community, hang out, have fun, do races. It's a great, 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 great hobby. And to apply that much negativity towards it is a shame. And it's too bad. Oh. Oh man, Valkyrie Profile holding the lead by 1 vote. 1 vote. We're going to keep the straw poll. I'm going to keep posting a straw poll until I get the time I want in TLoD. We're gonna keep working on this shit. Oh yeah, that's a whole new can of worms, Fatflow. It really is a whole new can of worms. Something that I'm not particularly interested in really going into. But yes, if you're not a member, if you're not, it's that those last couple pages on the Legendary Dragoon thread is exactly showing your point 100%. That, oh, Railcoon shouldn't have to verify or, you know, prove that he did everything legit because he's such a staple in the community, because he's been so long, because he's been around so long, you know, because he's done all this and that and whatever. That's bullshit. That is 100% bullshit. I don't care who you are. If you're Railcoon, if you're freaking, you know, I don't know, Railcoon, if you're LeBron James, if you're like Taos, if you're freaking, you know, CC Sabathia or Justin Verlander or, you know, Aaron Rodgers or, you know, Adrian Peterson. It doesn't matter if it's an e-sport, if it's an actual sport or whatever. Real athletes get tested all the time for cheating. That being, you know, performance-enhancing drugs. Why? And those are big-name people. Oh, Adrian Peterson and LeBron James has never tested positive in their entire career, in their entire athletic career, for any sort of performance-enhancing methods. And they've done great work for their communities. They've donated money. They've helped other people get started in their athletic careers. Blah blah blah. So they should be exempt, completely exempt from any such testing or scrutiny. Bullshit. No. Everyone should be treated equally, 100%. It doesn't matter if, because I'm new to the speedrunning community. It doesn't matter if I'm new or if it's somebody who's been speedrunning games since it like came to fruition. Doesn't matter. We should both have to prove our legitimacy throughout. There should be a consistent basis no matter what. I don't care. It's just complete bullshit. 100%. It's BS. And yeah. Yeah, well, I'm just using that as a point. It doesn't matter if their character have been, if their character, you know, overall has been really great. Like, they've done great things for, you know, community, for charities, all this stuff. It doesn't matter if you have great character and if you've shown that. You should not be exempt from scrutiny, from being questioned about things. Because there are valid points on both sides of that argument. Railcoon did show how he gets through his text. I do something very similar with the PS1 controller, but the PS1 controller doesn't have that sensitivity that the PS2 controller does. So I can't hold down the X button and just let up gently and push it back down to get through text. I do something very similar, but I have to do it much quicker, and I actually have to lift up on the button and then push down right away. You know, he did say that. He also said, you know, that his time was beatable, that his route could be improved, you know, blah, 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 blah. at the same time, he also complains that his arm is getting tired, that it's a long run, that he said on that thread, literally on that thread, that the main thing that runners have to account for is arm fatigue. Even though he claims that he got better at mashing, which I know he did because I watched him get better, he still said that mashing fatigue is a big deal and that you have to account for it. Well, his mashing stayed pretty much uniformly throughout the entire run, which mine did as well. However, there are times where he advances through things a little questionable, and this is where Tome's argument Tome's side of the argument comes in. When he goes to fail additions, he fails them nearly instantly, almost like a ton of time. So either he literally spent hours upon hours practicing that frame perfect window to fail the addition. Either he did that or using a turbo controller to fail it. When it comes to some of his menuing, sometimes I can do it, but I can do it that fast, but I can't do it that fast all the time like he does. What else? The one fight when he was fighting Linus 2, he wasn't looking at the screen, and he was talking to chat and not even paying attention to his game, and he mashed all the way up to what he normally mashes to, which I think was like a 226. I can do that, but even with all my practice, and I know when attack items where you start to mash, because if you watch me when I mash, I wait, and then I start about a second before the actual trigger. That actual trigger occurs. So the big point here is I have to watch the screen to make sure to get that visual trigger. He's not watching the screen, he's watching the Twitch chat instead of that. That's also very questionable. Okay, I think there are definitely some points on both sides, and I think he does need to validate. He does need to have some validation here, without a doubt. Because he never showed his controller, he barely showed his hands. And like the point I made before, for this game, you have to have a hand game. Because so much of this game relies on the mashing. 100%, it relies on that. Having that kind of consistency when it comes to the attack item mashing, I think is possible, because if you watch me mash, the only times I mashed lower were basically because I screwed up. I didn't time it properly like I normally do. That happened maybe 3-4-ish times during this entire run. But other than that, I was 226 up to 236. I was right in that range, mainly at 230. 230 was my average for the most part. But to consistently be able to fail his additions almost instantly, what's a good fight that I can think of? I would think if you watch his Wendigo fight, I think that's the one where it's almost like frame perfect addition failing, like multiple times in a row. He'll do that. So that's questionable to me. That's really hard to do. Like, really hard to do. Because I can sit here and I can mash like crazy. I can sit here and mash like crazy to try to fail that addition right away. And it doesn't always happen like frame perfect immediately. So either, like I said, either he practiced it like crazy, which seems like a very foolish thing to practice, or he's using a turbo controller, because you don't save time the faster you fail the addition, because the character still has to complete the animation of running up to the enemy and hitting them once. Right? So the quicker you fail, doesn't matter. It's just the fact that he's doing it that fast, that many times consistently, when it doesn't even really matter. You know what I'm saying?